Hi, I'm Jim and I was retired. How do I bonds figure into your DIY retirement? In ours, it's a way of sheltering some taxable income for emergencies. These are not big dollars, but they can be smart dollars, and you have a lot of choices in how you purchase them and how you redeem them to control your taxable interest. In this week's video, I'll review some tips on buying and redeeming I bonds. Stay tuned. As we discussed in last week's video, we completed the purchase of one $10,000 I bond, which will have a fixed rate of 1.1% and a combined rate of 3.98% for the first 6 months. Marie completed that purchase in her own TreasuryDirect account. And as a reminder, each tax ID must have their own TreasuryDirect account. There are no joint accounts, but you can change the registration on your purchases to include this POD, payable on death registration. Anyway, she completed this $10,000 purchase of an I bond. Now, if we had waited to purchase the I bond after November 1st, it would have earned 4.03% for the first 6 months, but a fixed rate of only 0.9 for the whole life of its 30-year bond. So what it will earn in the second 6 months of its life will depend on the path of inflation over the next 6 months and the rate that's announced next May. And that's one of the reasons why I'll wait till April to decide whether we'll add another I bond or not. I'd like to have the visibility of the whole first year of interest in an I bond before locking dollars in this tax-sheltered investment. Hey, before I go any further, will you please like, share, and subscribe to this channel and hit that bell for notifications if you like entertaining ideas from a DIY retiree. The more you do that liking and stuff, it'll help this channel appear higher in the search algorithm. Hey, also be sure to check out my whole playlist on I bonds. I started getting back into it a few years ago when the rates were really high. And I've covered how to buy, how to gift, and how to redeem I bonds in prior videos. So earlier in October, I actually did redeem an I bond because I wanted to tap $5,000 of our retirement portfolio, but I wanted to trigger as little taxable income in 2025 as I could. So I did a comparison. I looked at some I bonds, and one of the advantages of I bonds is they sit on the shelf in a taxable account, but it's tax deferred until you decide to tap them. So I asked Grok to compare what would happen if I redeemed $5,000 from one of two of the I bonds that I used. And I compared an April 2003 I bond and an April 2024 I bond. Now here's a snapshot from ibonds.info. That's EYEBonds.info. And I'll put a link below so you can check out this website. It's a great resource for I bonds. This is an I bond purchased in April of 2003 and had a fixed rate of 1.6% for the life of the bond, and it will earn a composite rate of 4.48% for the next 6 months. And I know that because it's the current rate now applied to this bond. Next week, this page will be updated to include the November 1 rate for the next 6 months of this bond. And I'm always a little bit behind on this bond because I'm purchasing them in the month before new rates go into effect. So next 6 months, this inflation factor will be 1.56% with a combined rate of 4.74% for the next 6 months of this bond. But if I redeemed $5,000 from this I bond in October, then the withdrawal would be based on this number here, the $25,696 that it had earned up through September. So most of the withdrawal, though, would be taxable interest. Now here's the other option. This is an I bond I purchased in April of 2024. And because I've earned this I bond for less than 5 years, there's a 3-month penalty for redeeming early. So the redemption would be based on this 10,568 that it had earned. And a $5,000 withdrawal from this would be mostly principal. Now, here's the redemption from that bond. And it shows a $5,000 withdrawal from TreasuryDirect was simply a return of principal with only $268.74 in taxable interest. And if that's taxed at a 22% tax bracket, I'm right now on the borderline between 12 and 22%. So I wanted to calculate the worst tax hit this would cost me. So at 22%, this would cost me only $62 in taxes for that $5,000 that I needed for property tax coming up. I asked Grok what would have happened if I had redeemed $5,000 from the older I bond, which at this point was more interest than principal. And the same $5,000 redemption would have redeemed only $1,945 in principal and $3,055 in taxable interest. And using that same 22% tax bracket, it would have cost me more than 10 times the tax hit, $672 in taxes for the same $5,000 of funds that I'm using this year for an expense. So I bonds have a lot of choices to them. Use them carefully on how you purchase them and how you redeem them. If you don't have a lot of wiggle room in your taxable income in a given tax year, then look at your younger I bonds. They'll have more principal return to you and less interest income. If you have some wiggle room and in a taxable year where you can take taxable income, then pull down some of the older interest where it will be mostly interest and not principal. I will conclude with my standard warning. I am not a tax professional. I am not a financial planner. I have no initials after my name. So take these as entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one.